Welcome to another edition of VLGA Connect. Today we're going to check in on a Central Victorian Shire to see how they're coping with COVID-19. And this is Central Goldfields Shire, which is currently in administration. So what challenges are being presented to the task of the panel of administrators that they've been asked to do in this term of council? Our guest is Noel Harvey, the Chief Administrator. Hello, Noel, and welcome.
G'day, Chris. It's good to be with you.
Noel, of course, you've been around local government for a long time across a number of councils around the central parts of Victoria, Kyneton, Hepburn, Macedon Ranges, in councillor mayor roles as well as administration roles. Currently Chief Administrator at Central Goldfields Shire. I guess the timing of this with a pandemic on your doorstep could have been better from your perspective.
Yeah, look, it certainly could. As far as the organisation itself is concerned, that's been pretty challenging, but has stepped up and we've got that sorted. The first couple of weeks, of course, were very, very challenging. And I'm sure every council went through that. I guess we had an advantage, I suppose, in one sense that we, as administrators, we were able to make quick nimble decisions within the organisation to enable some of those things to occur to support our CEO in that one. But the other one, of course, is working with the community, which is now much, much harder in the last few months since we've been locked down, I guess.
Noel, just set the scene for us. How long is your administrator term? How long have you been in the role, and does it expire come elections if they happen later this year?
Yeah, well, we are appointed by Parliament until the day of the first meeting of the newly elected council. So I think we're due to conclude. I think it's about this it's very early, the first week of November or thereabouts.
Right.
So we've been here for, it'll be almost 3 years since we've been appointed.
So you've got a big task to do there in terms of rebuilding trust and confidence with the community of Central Goldfields Shire. The COVID-19 pandemic must make it so much harder to have that level of engagement and community building.
Yeah, indeed, it is, and that's one of the key roles that the Minister asked us to do while we were here at Central Goldfields, was to rebuild the confidence of the community in local government, and that's a long, slow process, as you can appreciate. It's been going well, but it's a lot of hard work and it's slow work. And yes, this current situation has put a bit of a dampener on that, to be honest. It really has, and made it much, much harder. You can't attend. Like, I was out most nights attending various community functions, talking about what we're doing, why we're doing it, and so on. And we were actually, this year, we were starting to talk about the future, about elections, about the importance of local democracy. Those sorts of things were part of the discussions we were commencing this year. But of course, that's all ground to a halt very much. So we've had to change tack quite a bit, and so we are using we still have our local newspaper, which is still being published. Fingers crossed that continues, because I read this morning there's quite a number of local papers that are closing down for the time being. Ours have committed to continue on, and they're a very important part of our communication strategy with our community, because we have a lot of people, a very high percentage, probably one of the highest in the state, of people who are not connected electronically. People who don't access the internet, who can't have Facebook, who don't have access to all those things, and they rely very heavily on the local newspaper. So we've actually changed our communications very much through to emphasising on the local newspaper, and we're doing that collaboratively with a number of other organisations, and I'll touch on that in just a moment. We're also, for those, we do have a lot of younger folk and families, etc. So we are using social media a lot. I'm doing quite a few. I have a administrator page. The council has its own page. Our family centre has a page, our libraries and so on have all got a number of Facebook pages and so on. So we're using all the media that we can, and the various mediums within media to get that message out there. And look, it will just have to keep changing. I mean, that's the nature of what we're dealing with at the moment. We have to constantly change to keep up with what's going on around about us.
So how big a challenge is that trust and confidence issue with that community? How are you finding the responses you get about the community? Well, before COVID-19, but as you engage in different ways.
We've been I was pleasantly surprised at how well we've been received here in the local community. I think there was a general recognition, oh, thank God someone's actually now going to come do something to fix up the problems. And we've been quite open about that. We haven't talked specifically about what happened or who did what or why. That hasn't been part of our discussion at all. We're saying we've got a brilliant opportunity now to draw a line in the sand and start again. Not many communities have that opportunity. So, and I think that's been well received. And that's been the message we've been talking about right from day one. Yes, there's some decisions that are unpopular. They are we have to make them. That's part of what our job is, to make some of those hard decisions, which are tricky for councillors. Unfortunately, this COVID-19 situation is going to slow down our capacity to deliver on some of those tough decisions, which were just around the corner. But we'll do our best to get there. But in terms of engaging the community are a highly engaged community, I have to say. Whilst we have a very, very disadvantaged community, they are highly engaged. And they've got tremendous capacity to help themselves. And so we're trying to tap into that very much. And I'm really, really encouraged by the level of the support and the level of engagement that we have within the local community.
You sort of almost touched on those processes that you need to deal with currently in trying circumstances. Yeah. Where are you at with your budget, for example?
Can I come to the budget in just a moment? There's a couple of things I just want to touch on, because what we found early on, and whilst everything was changing so quickly, like almost every day, things were changing for about a fortnight. And there was a lot of mixed messages or inconsistent messages getting out there. So credit to our local member, she actually established what we are now calling our COVID-19 task force. And that brings, she facilitates that meeting. Around that table is the council, ourselves, Lucy LaRoffe, CEO, and myself sit at that. We have the Committee for Maryborough, which is like the business community, two people sitting at that table. We have the health centre, the hospital, chief executive sits at that table, and also the police commander. So we've got these 5 groups of people sitting around the table, making sure that our messages are simple, easy to understand, consistent and accurate. And that's the sole function of that group. And that has really helped tremendously. So we are working very, very cooperatively. Like I was saying, with the local paper, every fortnight now we have a 4-page wraparound on the newspaper. We all contribute to that. And that gives out some really good, consistent messaging right across the Shire. So that's
I think I saw you have a flyer going out to all of your residents.
We have a flyer which actually has commenced going out again, but reflecting our community. We felt it's really important to reach those communities that have very poor reception and so on, and poor internet services, and people who can't access it. We actually have a flyer that is actually started being distributed to every household in the Shire. Very simple, and actually outlines the sort of information the community needs to know about how to stay healthy, what are the current state of regulations, where to go when you need help. Here's some helpline numbers, and it's a joint one between the council and the health service. That will be in every single household, printed copy, going out over the current week. Some that will be hand delivered around the town, some through Australia Post and so on. So again, that's another way of getting the message out there, but also reflecting the needs of the community.
Interesting, isn't it? The technology, I don't know where we'd be dealing with a pandemic without the technology we have, but in a community like yours, some of the older ways of communicating are going to be the most effective, aren't they?
Absolutely, no question about that. We have a large elderly community, of course, and we have a high number of unemployed people who just can't afford access to internet and so on. Our libraries are closed, so they may traditionally go to the library to access those, but of course our libraries are closed, so they can't access that sort of technology. So it's really, printed paper has come back in the Central Goldfields Shire for very, very good reason.
So just quickly on your budget, where are you at with your budget process?
Okay, we've commenced our budget process. We are delighted, of course, that the Minister has allowed us a little bit more time to finalise our budget. It's tough. It is really, really difficult. And I guess because we are facing such an unknown future, trying to frame a budget with so many unknowns is really difficult. We have committed to prepare, we actually had a discussion around our budget yesterday. We've committed to prepare a business as usual budget at this time, fully appreciating that things may change and evolve. What I do need to say, Chris, and I'm sure there'll be many people have spoken to you about this, I am really concerned at the lack of support currently that's coming out of state and federal government for local government. We are carrying a very, very heavy burden, and it's costing us a lot of money. And we have to fund that at this point of time from within our budget. And that's a real challenge for a community like ours. Yeah, we struggle. Well, do we put a rate freeze on? I'm sure there will be councils that are considering putting on rate freezes. Generally, we are not supportive of that idea, because if we put on a rate freeze, yes, whilst we help the unemployed and the people who've lost their employment, it gives a free kick to the Coles and the Woolworths and the big operators there, who then also have, that we rely on our big rate contributors then also get a rate free. So we're more inclined to provide other supports to people who are really struggling as a result of what they're experiencing at the moment, responding to individual concerns within the community rather than a blanket approach across the municipality.
Yes.
But I really do believe it. I know that ALGA and VLGA, MAV are all out there lobbying this stage, particularly around our FAGS grants at the moment. That's a really important possibility for councils, but I think there needs to be a lot of close scrutiny about what is the extra burden that councils are now having to carry, and it's going to hit rural communities as hard as any of them.
Absolutely, it's a real hot topic at the moment, and one we're looking to explore in more detail on a special panel edition of VLGA Connect. So stay tuned for that one. Good. Noel, we're about out of time. We could talk for quite a while, so perhaps we'll catch up again very soon. Great to see you and hear how you're dealing with COVID-19 in Central Goldfields Shire. I think as of today, as of recording this, you've had one case, am I right?
Yes, we've had one. Yes, that was about a fortnight ago, and there's been no subsequent cases. So fingers crossed that's the way it stays. Our community has been fantastic. They have really responded well to the restrictions, etc. We're just encouraging people, and our very consistent message is follow the rules. Don't be the one to try and find the loophole. And it's starting to work. It really is.
Excellent. Well done. Good work, Noel. Great to see you, and all the very best.
Good to talk to you. Thanks, Chris.
Terrific to speak with Noel Harvey, the Chair of Administrators at Central Goldfields Shire. More to come on VLGA Connect. We hope to see you again for future episodes, and we might see you on future episodes. If you have a story to share, please get in touch. VLGA@vlga.org.au is the email address, and we'd love to hear from you. See you soon on VLGA Connect.